Okay, that was a pretty cool video, not gonna lie. I will definitely be liking and subbing. Good news, I have more, or rather, the last piece. You really gotta start learning how to use the door, buddy. Yeah, okay, whatever. I've got the final episode to No Life Crystal series, and with that put to bed, I can finally go play some other mods and games. Yeah? What may those be? Mods like Catalyst, Calamity Community Add-on, kill me. And what games will you oh so ever nicely treat yourself to? I'm gonna play some absolute gems like Got this done quicker than you expected, eh? No 6-month wait needed, I guess. Anyways, not much I need to say, as all I said last part still applies. Just gonna go over some general changes to Calamity that made this possible and a new mod that got ported to 1.4.4, and that mod being the Summoner UI mod, which shows how many minion and sentry slots I have. Now, with what had me motivated to make this was Calamity's small update that changed a few accessories around to have them function in a new way. The most significant ones are the Ambrosial Ampule, which gives me a massive life regen and most importantly plus 70 max life, which will actually allow me to survive an attack or two. Purity, a direct upgrade to the Ambrosial Ampule, giving me even more life regen and boosting my health by 100. And the Sponge, which is a rover drive on steroids, giving a rechargeable shield worth 180 hit points. It wouldn't surprise me if these accessories got nerfed in a subsequent update, as they carried me so unbelievably hard. Just imagine how good they'd be in a normal playthrough. Anyways, let's get on with the boss progression. The first bosses I'll take down are the Profane Guardians, to get the Profaned Core, so I can call upon the Profane Goddess, Providence, which when defeated will bless my jungle with Eula Bloom, which can be used to craft some new gear and also drop the Rune of Kos. With the Rune of Kos, I will challenge the Sentinels of the Devourer one by one, first taking on Stormweaver for the Aqua's Scepter, then Cygnus, Envoy of the Devourer, which will be defeated to steal the Cosmic Lamp, an exceptional summoning weapon. And finally, Ceaseless Void will be sealed off, gaining the attention of the arrogant and egotistical Worm. In preparation for the fight with the Worm, I will fight Poltergeist for another set of gear upgrades. All geared up, I will finish the Godslayer, the Devourer of Gods, to empower the Frost Moon, the Pumpkin Moon, and the Solar Eclipse with new materials. Seeking these new materials, I plan on taking these events to test out my new gear and gather the materials so they can be combined into Ascendant Spirit Essence, used to forge some of the most powerful equipment. Before I fight Yaron, I need to sort out the exponentially increasing number of Dragon Follies, so I can make Yaron summon. With this new gear, I will take on the Tyrant's Pet, Resplendent Phoenix, Yaron, to awaken the ancient power of the Auric Souls. Coming down to the final showdown, I will challenge Supreme Witch Calamitous to show a demonstration of true power, and to find the means to an end of this suffering. And finally, I will humble Draydon and his tin cans, the exomechs, serving as an epic finale to the series. As a bonus round, I will give Terminus, the boss rush, a shot, but I do not aim on taking it fully down, so I'll only give a few attempts in it, acting as a finishing cast for all the bosses I've defeated on the way. Right from where we left off, I opened my bag and used a Celestial Onion, granting me an additional accessory slot. I also went ahead to make a Luminite pickaxe so that I could venture into the depths of space, as a new construct has appeared, containing vast amounts of Luminite and Exodium clusters. With that, I armed myself with some new armor and the Normality Relocator, an improved Rod of Discord that allows me to teleport to the position of my mouse cursor just on the press of a button. Before I get into any combat, I wanted to get my hands on an upgrade to the Terra Prisma, a set of elemental axes which swarm and annihilate anything in their path. Now is a good time to discuss the new health-related items Calamity added in the latest update. While not necessarily new, the Ambrosial Ampule is a necessity as it gives a massive plus 70 health, which will be of much use, allowing me to tank an extra hit or two. Geared up, I clash with the Profane Guardians. There are two spots where I could fight them, either in the Hallowed or the Underworld. I tried fighting them in the Hallowed, but their bright projectiles blended in well with the background, making dodging rather difficult. So I went down to the Underworld to finish this off. The Healer Guardian poses little threat, as his attacks are easily avoidable due to them being slow and predictable. During the Sparks attack, you can even make contact with the green ones to get healed, which can serve as a safe space while dodging. While that is happening, the Guardians group up to unleash a laser that surrounds the player and leaves a small gap. This was easy to dodge because you can tell where the safe space can be by extrapolating the path of the laser, or if you're boring, you can just teleport out of the way. The Defender Guardian likes to charge at the player and makes moving around difficult by surrounding himself with rocks. My whip alongside the elemental axes swiftly deal with the rocks, and I can avoid the charge attacks by counter-ramming into the defender. The commander shoots large cluster fireballs and holy spears at the player. They can be maneuvered around similarly to the attacks of the healer. After a few attempts, I was victorious, gaining the attention of the Profane Goddess. With no time to waste, I challenged the Moth, I mean profane goddess Providence. The best way I can describe her attacks is a buffed and combined version of the Guardians. Having done lots of practice with the Guardians, the battle went smoothly. When reaching low health, she cowers behind her Guardians once more to regenerate. Luckily, the elemental axes were relentless and chopped away at Providence and her Guardians simultaneously, giving very little time to heal. With this consistent pressure, Providence implodes into a glamorous supernova that is sure to kill your eyes if it doesn't kill your character. With Providence out of the question, some new materials are at hand. The first thing I want to make is the Profane Soul Artifact, allowing me to recruit the Profane Guardians on my side. In addition to the generic Summoner stat boosts, the Defender Guardian surrounds me with a rock shield worth of 25 hit points to further boost my tankiness. And if that were to go down, the Healer Guardian will provide me with a steady flow of healing. Now I wanted to head to the jungle to extract the fossilized plant material, the Eula Bloom. Good luck saying that on your first time. With this, I am able to construct the Tarragon armor set, which gives me less minion slots but massively improves my damage. Providence's defeat had attracted bigger foes that wanted to stop my crusade. One such foe is the Devourer of Gods, a large milestone in this playthrough. But to get to him, I must first defeat his allies. I started off with Stormweaver, an incredibly armored and fast worm. At his first stage, I am barely able to scratch away at his heavily armored shell, but attack after attack, I learned that he had a weak spot, which was his tail. So I rallied my minions to stab away at his tail. Soon enough, he shed his armor, making him vulnerable to all my attacks. With his armor gone, he was much swifter and had control over the weather. With a swift lightning strike, he lunges at me, but I'm able to avoid it by dashing towards him. You might think that his special ability is to conjure storms, but his real special ability is that he lowers your frame rates and then kills you. So scummy. Matching his speed, I'm able to weave around his storms and dismantle him just as swiftly. With his scales, I'm able to extract the power of storms and wield it for myself with the Aqua's Scepter, a sentry weapon, which is a super buff Nimbus rod. A note to self, you could have been using the Tarragon wings for better mobility, idiot. My next target is Cygnus, Envoy of the Devourer. This emo boy was no match, as he wasn't as fast or as strong as Stormweaver. I guess he teleports around, which is cool and all, but he was nothing special. I paid little mind to him and dispatched my minions to take care of him. Hey, don't feel so bad, Cygnus. At least you have a good drop, the Cosmic Lamp, a cosmic lantern that fires homing projectiles at enemies. The final target awaits locked away in the dungeon, Ceaseless Void, the deepest, darkest ally of the Devourer. Sucks so hard that even light can't escape it. One thing that he can control, that doesn't suck, well, at least not all the time, is his dark energy. The dark energy gravitates around Ceaseless Void in a predictable yet discordant pattern. My best bet was to travel with the dark energies and mimic their movement. If I get into trouble, then I ram my way out of there. I put my trust in the Cosmic Lamp to do damage, but it sucks as hard as Cygnus does. So I redeploy my elemental axes, which were feeling a bit jealous at the time, and to say they did not disappoint would be an understatement. They absolutely tore up the dark energies and Ceaseless Void, destabilizing him and causing him to suck so hard that he even sucked himself out of existence. In case you're slow, I made all these sucking jokes because he's a black hole. I know, sucks so much that it might even compete with your mother. Before I came face to face with the Devourer, I wanted to seal the dungeon shut from all threats. So I called upon Poltergust, an amalgam of all malicious souls of the dungeon. Guys, I promise this isn't Blue Plantera. Poltergust spares no expense on souls as he uses them as projectiles against me. They are very small and potent, so it is easy for me to lose sight of them and get hit. So I have to stay mobile and as far away from his claws as I can. Getting frustrated at me, Poltergust transitions into a second phase where he clones himself for double trouble. Now he begins to charge at me more and more often, doing tag team attacks. Luckily, I'm able to ram into Poltergust to negate his damage. With some focus fire on his friend, I'm able to banish his clone, leaving him hopeless and desperate, charging at me frantically with all that he has left. I kept my cool unlike him, and managed to land the final blow, putting these souls at rest from this hive mind. By putting them to rest, I mean gathering them for my own personal gain, as it will serve me for eternity in the form of new gear. One such gear is the Phantomic Soul Artifact, extorting the power of these souls to boost my defensive and offensive capabilities as long as my minions are attacking. But most importantly, these souls will be made comfortable in my new Bloodflare armor, which boasts some impressive regenerative abilities. The time has come to face the Devourer of Gods, a worm-type enemy that if I get hit by his head, it's an instant kill, so I best be careful. I opted to use Summoner against the Devourer primarily because of the Aqua's Scepter being exceptionally good against multi-segmented enemies. You see the Nimbus Rod absolutely melt Destroyer, why can't an upgraded version do the same to Devourer? There is only one small issue, however. The Cloud summons so many raindrops that it actually fills out the projectile limit and as a result kills off my minions, meaning I have to re-equip them midway through the fight. I thought that this just wasn't worth the hassle, so instead I switched my helmet and accessories to a rogue build with the Stormweaver's gift, Twisting Thunder. What makes this especially powerful is that Stealth Strikes summon Piercing Lightning Strikes. You could probably guess now that piercing weapons do very good against Devourer of Gods. In no time, the Devourer of Gods got fed up with me and fled the battlefield. But wait, he only left for a change of attire. Look how thick he is now. With his new drip, his attacks got enhanced. For starters, he's way more aggressive and tries to eat me way more often. His lasers now form a laser grid, which I have to stay still to avoid, and now periodically tunnels his way through his own pocket dimension to strike at me. For his laser grid, I mounted the Shrimpy Truffle to get more air control and easily dodge his laser grid. For the charges and teleports, I simply dashed towards him or rammed into him to avoid damage. Even despite his confidence and arrogance, he was devoured in lightning, making the means to an end of his reign.
Crunch, 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 crunch. Goodbye, dumbass.
I managed to salvage remaining scraps of his scales for some Cosmolite bars and several powerful weapons. His defeat unearthed a hidden element to the solar eclipse, Frost Moon and Pumpkin Moon, which are highly sought out by me, so that I can grab some endgame gear. First, I challenged the solar eclipse for Dark Sun fragments, then the Pumpkin Moon for Nightmare Fuel, and finally the Frost Moon for Endothermic Energy. Binding all these potent materials into one yields Ascendant Spirit Essence, an ancient magical component used in some of the most powerful weapons and equipment. One such piece of equipment is the Asgardian Aegis, the most powerful shield accessory, granting plus 40 health and a ram attack. Another essential accessory is the Sponge, an improved rover drive, providing a whopping 180 temporary shields. The good thing about the shields is that if I am hit and the shields are still up, I don't lose my adrenaline, as it does not count towards my total health, and instead is proprietary. Also, we cannot forget to honor the Devourer and dress ourselves in his armor, which gives us an insane dash with immunity frames. Finally, the weapon I wanted to use is the Eclipse's Fall, a rogue spear which self-strike summons more spears to swarm and overwhelm any enemy that they come into contact with. I really don't want to have to do this, but in the name of progression, the two nuggets Yaron and Dragon Folly must be defeated. To fight Yaron, I need effulgent feathers plucked from Dragon Folly, a failed clone of Yaron from one of Draydon's 6 experiments. Not much to be said here other than I'm fighting her off tier and she was erased in a matter of seconds. With these feathers, I improved my wings to silver wings, grabbed a Blunder Booster for extra mobility in a pinch, and finally made the Blessed Phoenix Egg to summon Yaron. Hey you, me? Yes you, have you always wanted to make the perfect Yaron arena? As a matter of fact, yes I do. Splendid, just follow along with these very simple steps. First, make sure you have the cheat sheet mod installed. Next, leave your world. Wait, really? That's right, you buffoon. You can't build an arena without God mode. You're too incompetent to do it from the wiki. Now that's just hurtful. The next step is to enter an older world with an existing Yaron arena. Simply select the paintbrush and then the eyedropper to cover the area. Now all you have to do is enter your world and paste the arena with the paintbrush again, and voila, you're done. That didn't teach me how to build an arena. What if I don't have a world with an existing arena? I'm afraid that's all the time we have, folks. Enjoy your arena and good luck with the battle. What an idiot, not having a Yaron arena ready beforehand. Anyways, I stood at the center of the jungle and held the egg over my head. As soon as the sky turned orange and the air got warmer around me, I knew I was going to have a bad time. As I waved the egg over me, Yaron without hesitation charges in my direction. I avoid him by maintaining a large distance between us, and ramming into him as soon as he does to negate any damage. Maintaining such a large distance also spreads out his projectiles and makes them much easier to dodge. This is especially true when he teleports on top of the player and spews out hundreds of fireballs. His Infernados aren't making things much easier either. A strategy I often use is to use my charge from the Godslayer set to get away from the Ring of Fire, but a limitation of the sponge becomes apparent then. Despite the charge giving me immunity frames, they only act towards my normal health and not my shields. As a result, my shields are destroyed and I have to fend for myself until it comes back online. Yaron's charge attacks deal well over 300 damage, more than enough to kill me with a single swipe, so I avoid using the Godslayer charge and only use it when absolutely necessary. As I get closer and closer to depleting his HP, I start leaning closer and closer towards my monitor until... Oh yeah, I forgot, since he's a Phoenix, he just gets to regen all his HP just like that. At least it plays a really cool theme, I guess. Anyways, with phase 2 on our hands, he dashes towards the player with an increased ferocity and dealing more damage. more the reason to avoid that. Pretty much all fire-related attacks also happen more frequently, so the Ring of Fire bullet hell is upon me once more. In addition to the amplified attacks, he gains 2 new ones, one attack being to lay out a row of delayed detonating fireballs that can throw you off. The best way to avoid them is to bait Yaron into the corner and force him to deploy them in said corner. Then simply go to the other side and fight him there. The second more annoying attack is him teleporting on top of you and dashing. That spells instant kill for me, so I have to be very aware of when he will do this. The teleport is telegraphed by Yaron flying above you for a few seconds and then swoops in. The way to counter this is to either teleport away yourself or to counter dash. After a relentless tussle, I land the final blow as Yaron's ashes scatter in the wind. As his ashes soak the ground, they fuse with the stone to form auric ore, blessed with a draconic soul, one of the most powerful materials I can get my hands on. From the bag, I got Drew's wings, the best wings in Calamity. Now, some of you might say, why haven't you gotten the Seraphil Celestial Traces yet? I wish I could, but I just can't. If you remember, Angel Treads used to craft these two have rocket boots in their recipe tree, and if you recall from part 1, I can't get the Goblin Tinkerer on my side. And besides, my wing alternatives so far have served me pretty well. The weapon I'm most excited about is the Wrath Wing, as it has a great stealth strike of erupting fire and still maintaining great damage when spammed. It also travels through tiles and homes in on enemies, so I can focus more on dodging. And with that, I head into the caverns to extract the auric ore. Now, you gotta be careful with handling this stuff. It's really dangerous and... what the hell did I just say, man? Anyways, with my bare hands, I fuse Yaron's soul fragments and the auric ore to synthesize pure auric bars. With this metal, I can replicate the arsenal of the jungle tyrant himself. So I make myself the essential auric Tesla armor, which has the combined effects of the Tarragon, Blood Flare, and Godslayer set, alongside some of the best stat increases in general. In terms of equipment, I grabbed myself the Seraphim, a rogue weapon that splits upon death into innumerable lasers that track their target. I also upgraded my Ambrosial Ampule into the Purity, granting me the maximum plus 100 max health, and also massively increasing my regeneration. Also, it gives me the ability to take damage over time debuffs and turn them into extra defense and regeneration. I finally took it upon myself to finish constructing Draydon's gaming PC so that I can call him on Discord later. Hey you, what do you want this time? Have you built yourself an arena for Supreme Calamitous yet? For the matter of fact, yes I have. Shut up, and let me show you how to build an arena for Supreme Calamitous. First, you're going to want to exit your world again and enter a world where you have previously fought Supreme Calamitous. Then with our sponsor, Cheat Sheet, select the area to save it. Next, travel back to your normal world and paste it in your desired location. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. I already told you, I have an arena. Yeah, well, okay, fine, you win. Now it was time for the ultimate challenge, Supreme Calamitous. This will be no easy feat, so it's best I brace myself for the worst. And the worst came, when I was able to tank a maximum of 3 attacks at any given time. One with my dodge from the Eclipse Mirror, the second with the Sponge's shield, and the last would leave me on very low HP. The first bullet hell phase is one of the hardest in my opinion, as you have hell blasts flying in from all directions, so you have to weave in between each of them. The first difficulty arose right after the first bullet hell, with Sepultura tanking for the Brimstone Hearts, keeping it alive. The Wrath Wing would always get distracted by Sepultura and go for him instead of the Hearts. To counter this, I had to stay high up in the arena so I could reliably damage them. This turned out to be more difficult than expected, as I had attacks thrown at me from all directions. But with a few stealth strikes, the Hearts and Sepultura are gone. This leads to the one-on-one battle with Calamitous. She fires projectiles directly at me, which can be avoided by just flying up and down and also weaving in through the smaller projectiles that fired in a circle. As her shields begin to fade away, she fires a spread of shots in my directions. And just as I begin to feel safer, she charges at me. If I don't pay attention to her shield's condition, she can very easily catch me off guard and land some devastating hits. Up until this point, I have been conserving my adrenaline for key moments like tanking hits or for anything Calamitous spawns in. The second bullet hell phase is the easiest in my opinion, as it only consists of single-sided brimstone blasts alongside the small projectiles. After this is over, Calamitous will return to her normal attack pattern. At half health, a third bullet hell phase begins. It is much harder than the first, as it combines the first bullet hell with the circular firing projectiles, making weaving between the blasts much harder. After this is over, Calamitous calls upon her brothers, Cataclysm and Catastrophe. This is a key moment where I want to save my adrenaline for, as taking down the brothers as soon as possible improves my chances of survival. The hardest brother's projectiles are Cataclysms, as his fists of fury tend to bop up and down as they travel. while Catastrophe's sword slashes move in straight lines. I focus on Cataclysm first, and then take care of Catastrophe. After the brothers are taken down, Calamitous returns her normal attack pattern. When she has taken some damage, she will enter a 4th bullet hell phase, where the vile brimstone monsters begin to chase me, really limiting the area I can move in. Once this is finished, Calamitous surrounds herself with Soul Seekers, which fire projectiles of their own, which can trip me up a few times, but the Wrathwig deals with them just fine. After all the Soul Seekers are destroyed, the final bullet hell begins, where she throws all of her attacks at once and unleashes a new projectile, a brimstone skull that behaves similarly to the Fists of Fury, bobbing up and down. After exiting the final phase, Calamitous calls upon Sepultura one final time. At this stage, I fell short on many occasions, having to pass many trials and tribulations. Desperate to reach the top and land some hits, I tried Warrior with the Murasama and Ark of the Cosmos, but to no avail. I also tried to use my beloved Summoner, but that proved ineffective as my accessories were extremely outdated as they require a drop from the Goblin Sorcerer. Defeated and hopeless, I lay at base, scratching away at solutions to defeat Calamitous until it struck me. Forget about stealth strikes, let's go ham with the Wrathwig. And the perfect accessory to complement this playstyle is the Venerated Locket, which summons a copy of the rogue weapon I throw, but the copy only deals 7% of the weapon's damage. This was no worries, as most of my damage come from the projectiles the Wrathwig summons, whose damage is unchanged by the Venerated Locket, almost doubling my damage. Refilled with hope, I head back into battle and focus my way up to the Brimstone Hearts, and they were swiftly squashed. Sepultura crumbles, and I throw everything at Calamitous as a last-ditch effort. When I hear Calamitous pleading for mercy, I know I have defeated her. Instead of ending her there and then, I decide to recruit her, so I can boast to her at any time I want. With her treasure bag at hand, I opened it to get the Sacrifice Dagger, a rogue weapon that drains the life of my opponents, the longer it stays there. My final opponent stands face to face with me. Exhausted from this journey, I power on the PC and call Dradon on Discord. He picks up and begins to tell me his life story and how his machines would wipe the floor with me. We'll see about that. My choice was to begin with Thanatos, a near invulnerable worm which fires countless lasers at me. I, however, was unfazed as I put my trust in the Seraphim, which absolutely broke Thanatos into a million pieces. Frustrated as he observed, Dradon called in for reinforcements from the other 3 exomechs while Dradon observed the damages. I switched to my Sacrifice and Wrathwing to deal with Ares first. After dealing sufficient damage, I was able to witness Ares' full potential. He has 4 guns that each fire a special round of ammunition. His first gun fires a Gauss nuke, which explodes in a massive area of effect. I avoid it by dashing away as fast as I can, so I can escape it before detonation. The next gun is his Tesla cannon, which fires rounds that chain together to form an electric fence, denying me space and forcing me to move in another direction. The third gun is a basic laser shot that fires a fast-moving single shot that explodes into a petal of 4 more lasers. The final gun is a laser blaster that sweeps with a solid beam, forcing me to move in a different direction. After dealing critical damage to Ares, he enables his Berserker sequence and fires 9 solid beams from his core that I have to dance around while he peppers me with more laser shots. After surviving the laser disco on my last legs as I barely escaped with my life, I shut him down for good. Dradon isn't holding back any punches anymore and sends out Apollo and Artemis and Thanatos to finish the job. Apollo and Artemis shoot straight shots at the player with a calculated path, which will hit me if I keep moving in the same direction. So I have to either change direction or begin flying up or falling. The other laser attack is a shotgun blast of lasers that I can fly over or weave through. Once I get them critical, they get singled out as Thanatos leaves to prepare his strongest attack. Artemis telegraphs a swift charge in the shape of an N to get me in position, where Apollo then fires a solid beam, sweeping in a 180-degree area. I try my best to avoid this by getting behind Apollo, but I couldn't. I saved my skin by using the Godslayer dash, sacrificing my shields, but ultimately getting out alive. With me facing Apollo's back, I deliver the final hit as they are destroyed. My final challenge, Thanatos, stands between me and victory. I was too determined to fail here, and so I wasn't going to fail. Thanatos fired even more and what seemed to be infinite lasers, trying to fry me, but as he fired them, his plating exposed weak spots that my Seraphim exploited. Dradon deactivated the process limiters manually from Thanatos as he quickly snapped onto me, locking on. As he readied the solid beam, he coiled around me. I had no choice but to stand right beside his head, which at any second would slice me in half. I had to remain calm and not make any sudden movements like dash, or else he would snap on instantly and crush any hopes of victory I had left. With me keeping my cool, I outlasted the laser and escaped his ghastly grip. The laser spam repeated, but I avoided it by running in a straight line and ascending if I needed. Thanatos was preparing his last beam attack and I repeated my strategy, but he was just too worn down, and with a final blow from the Seraphim, Thanatos went offline. Disappointed in his machines, Dradon made excuses to say that it was just testing me and fled the battlefield like the sore loser he was. I was also promptly banned from his Discord server and he blocked me. I think that this is for the best. Time to put Calamity as a whole to bed. And then wake it back up for a moment because I just wanted to try out something. So, off to the bottom of the abyss I go to claim the Terminus, the boss rush mode of all Terraria and Calamity bosses. This is out of the challenge, so I'll only give it one attempt just to see how far I can get. And the answer to that is I got to the Devourer of Gods. Now I can truly put Calamity to bed. Now I can finally say I'm glad that this is over. Just kidding. While it really is over, I had so much fun pushing myself to the absolute limits with this challenge. And if I could do it again, I would. Now, in the comments, I don't want to hear anyone mention Infernum because I'm not going to be doing that with no life crystals. You're just crazy if you do. But if there's one thing that this challenge has taught me, is that crazy is fun. So maybe. This will be my last video for a while as I'm itching ever so closely to university and I wanted to get this done and out of my head. So if you want to make me happy by liking, subscribing or even commenting, you'll truly make my day and make me feel as if my work was worthwhile. I usually put about 10 hours into scripting and voicing alone, and editing takes about 30 hours. And as for gameplay, that depends. Part 2 and 3 took me about 4 full days of recording collectively, so do go ahead, like, sub and comment, because big numbers and nice words on the screen make me feel accomplished with this type of stuff. And now a quick memorial to all the bosses I skipped. Crabulon, very funky crab. Brain of Cthulhu, Crimson. The Perforators, the Crimson. Deerclops, cool boss, terrible drops. Brimstone Elemental, Rule 34. Leviathan and Anita, Mermaid and Big Fish, also a lot of Rule 34. Ravager, top 5 boss theme. Old Duke, I hate Old Duke. Anyways, enough chit chat from me, here's my tier list, and with that said, I'm going to sleep in real life. See you guys.